Free with Cleo.
Hey, this is Cleo with CleoYogaFinance.com, and welcome back for another episode of Financially Free with Cleo, a show where we shift mindsets with real and raw money conversations with everyday people, empowering you to take action, appreciate the journey, and live the lifestyle you desire, financially, mentally, and physically. Today, I'm going to be talking about the pivot. We hear a lot of people mention pivoting in a pandemic, or I had to pivot and turn and do something else even way before the pandemic. So what does that really mean, pivoting? It basically means that you're turning to do something else. You're switching lanes, you're switching careers, you're doing something different. And that reason for doing something different can mean different things to different people. And I want to encourage you to not be afraid to pivot. Sometimes pivoting can be the answer to unlocking our next level. Sometimes we're told that we should stick with something because we're comfortable, or stick with something because you've been doing it for a long time, so you should just keep doing it. No, if you've been doing something for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or how long ever, you come to a point where you just want to do something else or need to do something else for whatever reason. So a while back, I was watching this news segment with my daughter, and it was 4 to 5 people on there talking about careers. They had been in these careers for 10 to 20 years, and these are not just regular careers. They were careers that were popular, that most people would want, and they were high income positions. So they were talking about how, their experience and how they reached a point in their lives where they just wanted to do something else. And my daughter asked me, she said, well, why are people changing their careers? And that made me think that a lot of young people, a lot of teenagers, young adults are pressured to, choose a career, pick what you want to do. You should know what you want to do. But a lot of us, let's just think about it. When we were 18, did we really know what we wanted to do? And I think, and even if we did know what we wanted to do, most of us may not be doing exactly what we planned on doing. Whatever thoughts we had at 18, most of us are probably doing something completely different, which is totally okay. But I had to explain to her that, you can work in a career and you can love it, you can enjoy it, you can have a great time during that whole experience, but you do reach to a point where, you just want to do something else. As we grow older, our needs change, our wants change, our interests change, and we just reach different levels of life where, yes, maybe at 20, that career or that job was perfect for you. It was going well, everything is all good. But then if you reach 30 or even 40, you have moments in your life where you want to do something else. Our lifestyles change, we experience different things that triggers us to think about starting something else. And that is totally okay. I wanted her to understand that if you pick a career now, that doesn't mean you have to do that till you get to retirement age. You can still have a great experience in that job or career, and you can still, make an impact in the world. But if you get to a point 5 years later, 10 years later, or however long, and you want to change it, that's okay. So for me, when I first had that moment, this was when I was working in Colorado and working as a claims adjuster, and the job paid very well, but it did require a lot of hours. So I would go to work, and I just, I enjoyed the work because I've been doing it for years. a long time. Probably, over 10 years, like 14 years. So I had a lot of experience in this type of work. And I was just comfortable. I was used to doing the same job every single day. And I just would come to work and I would just feel like blah. Like I would just feel like I'm just going with the motions. I didn't really feel fulfilled anymore. And for a long time, it was the money. When I would feel like, ooh, Cleo, you should do something else. I would either be bored or just unhappy, or it would just stress me out or overwhelm me. And I was just like, ugh, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not feeling it. And then I would just go back to, well, Cleo, it does pay good. That's what was keeping me going. Like when I would get paid, when that payday comes, then you kind of feel okay. Like, okay, I guess I can deal with this job that I'm not happy with, But then, after a few days from payday, those feelings would creep back in. I'm like, you know what? that's when you know when you are over something, or you are, truly not fulfilled in something, when it's not just about the money. I know everyone thinks, well, I want to get this job because it pays this or pays that. Money can make you happy for a short period of time. When people say money don't bring you happiness, I believe money can bring you happiness for a period of time. But that period of time will wear off. And when it wears off, it's going to hit you hard to the point where you're going to be forced to make a pivot and make a decision. So what I did, I said, you know what? I'm going to start the process of doing something different. At that time, I couldn't just quit my job altogether. Or maybe I could, I just didn't. But I didn't just quit my job altogether. But what I did, I just started that journey of doing something different. I knew I loved talking about money. I knew I loved helping other people with their money. And I loved writing at that time. So I started to write. And when I was on social media one day, I saw this posting of someone looking for personal finance writers to write finance articles. This was Tanya Rapley Flash, and of MyFab Finance. Shout out to Tanya. She made this post. This was back in 2017. She had made a post that she was looking for some personal finance writers for the blog at MyFab Finance. So at this point, I was writing for myself, but I hadn't wrote for anyone else before. So I still applied for the position, and thankfully, and I'm still grateful to this day, she added me as one of her personal finance writers, and I still write for her today. And that just made me feel good that, oh my goodness, I can actually earn money doing something that I like to do, and it doesn't have anything to do with insurance claims. So I just want to encourage you that whatever you're wanting to do, just start. Quitting your job and starting isn't meant for everyone. Sometimes you have to start it while you're still on your current job. And even if you don't want to be a full-time entrepreneur or business owner, you can still have a fulfilling life and work for a company, be an employee, and doing a job on the side. Everybody's different. And I always tell people, do what's best for you. But that just helped. That was the start of me doing things that I knew I had a passion for, that I knew I had a strong interest in. But for several years, I just never started because I just felt like I needed money, or I needed more experience, or I needed this or that. But really, I just needed to start. And me just starting led to me getting a writing position with a remarkable, amazing platform, MyFab Finance. And I am so grateful. And when you start doing new things, people are going to be noticing. People are going to be watching you, and more opportunities are just going to come your way. Whether if you are doing something on the entrepreneurial side, or if you're trying to get more opportunities in the corporate world or at your job. So my advice is to just start. Whatever you want to pivot to, just start the process, and the additional next steps will be revealed to you. So if you're in a position where you're trying to decide if you should pivot and do something else, I feel like there are two things that are at that top of that list that people should think about when it's time to pivot. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, am I unhappy? Am I miserable every day? Am I unhappy, miserable, or stressed every day? Now, let's be real. You can have the best job in the world and you can still be stressed, overwhelmed, but you want to think about overall, when you wake up every day, most of the time, are you unhappy, miserable, or stressed? Most of the time. Not just an occasional day here or day there, but most of the time, are you unhappy, miserable, and stressed all the time? Because when we are always miserable, stressed, and unhappy, that takes a toll on us mentally and physically. And it only does us a disservice if we keep putting ourselves in positions where we're unhappy, unfulfilled, miserable, and stressed out all the time. No day is going to be perfect. I don't care what job you have, what business you have, what industry you're in. You're going to have days where you feel overwhelmed. You're going to have some days where you're like, you know what? Should I quit this? Do I need to do something else? Because this is too much. And there are going to be days where you may question yourself and have certain doubts, but sometimes. But if you're always having these negative feelings and emotions, then it may be time to pivot and do something different, because we all have so many skills so many talents, so many passions, and I feel that we all can do what we want to do and earn a living, the type of living that we want to earn, and have a fulfilling life. But sometimes we have to experience certain things in life to get there. So if you decide, you know what, I should pivot from what I'm doing, don't underestimate the experience that you've just done. Because whatever you learned in that experience is probably going to help you in the next thing that you're pivoting to. So don't feel shameful, embarrassed, or bad that you have to pivot and do something else, because sometimes pivoting could be the best decision that you could ever make. And pivoting is normal. You know, the times have changed where you start a career in your at a young adult age and you're there for the next 40 years. Like, that's just a part of the past and just not possible anymore, because we just have different thoughts, feelings, and ideas, and the world is evolving. We are evolving. And if we want to change and do something different, or maybe add additional things to what we're already doing, that is totally okay. So remember, ask yourself, am I unhappy, miserable, and stressed most of the time? And if so, start working on your plan to pivot and do something that is more fulfilling. And the second thing is to think about is the money piece. Of course, this is Financially Free with Cleo, so I'm going to hit on the money. So if you are an entrepreneur, have a side hustle, or you're a business owner, you have to ask yourself, am I making a profit consistently? And you know how we see people share their numbers on social media, right? They say they made, $50K in a week, or they made $100,000 in 60 days, or they make six figures every year, or I made $1 million. That's all cool when you talk about your revenue or your income. But you really want to know, what's that profit number? Once you receive these sales or you get this income, you make this revenue, when you deduct all of your expenses, what's that profit number? What is that number? That's the number I want to see people share more of, because it helps people get a clear idea of, what your profit really is. If you're not sure of your numbers, figure it out. And if you're not sure how to get that number, please hire someone to help you, because that's going to help you in the long run if you invest time and money into the financial side of your business. So if you are not profitable consistently, then you have to ask yourself, should I pivot and do something else if this is not working? Now, this is not to say if you start a business and you're not profitable in a year and you should quit. I'm not saying that, because being profitable consistently takes time. And being profitable at a certain level that you desire can also take time. So I do believe that you should evaluate to see, if I'm not profitable, have I really been doing everything that I know I can to become profitable? Because sometimes we can put our all into something and it just doesn't work. And that's okay, because you can pivot and try something else. But if you haven't been profitable because you haven't showed up like you're supposed to, then you have to decide, should I start changing the way I show up in my business? Or should I just do something else? Because maybe you're not showing up because you're just not really interested like you thought you were. Maybe that's not what you're meant to do. Maybe that's why you're not showing up, because you're really meant to do something else. So think about that, the profit. If you're not being profitable consistently, or you're not having a plan that you're working towards to eventually become profitable, then it's time to pivot and do something else. And if you are an employee, you work for someone else, ask yourself, think about the work that you're doing every day. How much do you get paid? Whether if it's paid every week, every 2 weeks, every month, how much money are you receiving every single month? And how do you feel when you see that deposit in your bank account, or if you're paid cash, whatever, however you get your money, when you receive that money for your work, how do you feel? Well, this is for either, whether if it's services or products. When you receive money, how does that make you feel? When you receive money for your work, how does that make you feel? When your employer pays you, do you feel confident and excited because you're being paid your worth? Or do you feel like you are not being paid your worth? You have to ask yourself that. Only you can answer that for yourself. So take some time this week to ask yourself, maybe it's a conversation you can have with your employer to increase the amount of money that you're being paid. Or maybe you should pivot and do something else where you can get paid your worth. Or maybe you want to do the same thing, but maybe work for a different company. So these are some questions that you have to ask yourself. We're in the second quarter of the year. This is April. This is still, financial literacy month. So we want to make sure that our numbers, our financials are on point. And if they're not on point, that's okay, because you have time to get it together. And I just want everyone to live a financial lifestyle that they really appreciate, that they are grateful for, and that they are truly happy in. Not the basic surface level fake happy, but like you are truly happy and satisfied with your progress as an employee or as a business owner, or if you got a little bit of both going on, that's cool too, because you can do what you enjoy and still earn the living that you desire. So we're talking about the pivot. If you feel like you should pivot or you're not sure, take some time this week to ask yourself those questions. And again, those two questions are, am I unhappy, miserable, and stressed all the time? Most of the time? If so, you may want to consider pivoting and doing something else in your professional life. And even in your personal life, think about that too. Is something or someone making you unhappy, miserable, or stressed all the time? You may have to pivot to a new group of friends. You may have to pivot to a new circle. You may have to pivot to a new environment. Think about that. And the second one is about the money. Are you profitable consistently in your business? Or if you work for an employer, are you consistently being paid what you're worth? Are you being paid for the work that you're doing with this company? And if not, and you've been showing up doing the work, and you know that you can receive more elsewhere or doing something else, then it may be time to consider pivoting. So I have my own experiences with pivoting, and I think as we evolve, we want to do different things. Just like with me doing this show, Financially Free with Cleo. I've wanted to start doing this for a very long time, but of course I didn't because I felt like I wasn't ready, or I felt like, well, maybe I'm not meant to do that. But then when I started to talk with people, have these money conversations, learn about other people's backgrounds, learn about other work that people are doing, I felt good. I was like, I want to do this all the time. This is what I enjoy. This is what I love to do. When you can wake up and do something, and it actually doesn't feel like work most of the time, or sometimes, because it is work, producing a show. But overall, if you enjoy doing this, then do it. Keep doing it. And if you're worried about the money is going to show up. The money is going to reveal itself. The opportunity is going to come. But you do have to do the work. You do have to consistently do the work in private and in public. You got to show up for yourself in private and in public to get that lifestyle that you desire. So take some time this week to ask yourself those questions. And of course, you know what I always do at the end of every show. I want to encourage you to do the best every single day, because that's all we can really do, right? Do our best, and don't overwhelm yourself if you didn't do everything on your to-do list. So again, I will see you next week. And as I always say, don't wonder what if, take a risk, and have an amazing week.
You can be financially free with Cleo.